Okay, let's continue lesson 3 with um, everything about angles. So the remaining portion of our lesson for lesson 3 is going to be talking about different relationships between angles. And so I want to start with this idea of an angle bisector. So this particular lesson is going to be kind of heavy on terminology, but it is terminology that is quite necessary for you to know and be able to recall for the future. Okay, so it says an angle bisector is a ray that divides an angle into two congruent smaller angles. Now, one of the things that we need to talk about is what does congruent mean? And so congruent actually means the same measure. So when we say that an angle bisector is a ray that divides this angle into two congruent smaller angles, then what we're saying is that these two smaller angles have the same measure. They have the same measure. And so notice the little marks that we've actually put here on each of these angles. That is an indication that these two angles do have the same measure and that they are congruent. So remember, congruent means the same measure. An angle bisector divides an angle into two congruent smaller angles. So here, let's just walk through this one more time. Ray BD, this ray right here, is bisecting the angle ABC such that the measure of angle ABD, this angle, is congruent to the measure of CBD. Okay? And so this symbol right here actually indicates congruent. Now, I'm going to be honest, I've never seen this symbol that has the dot on top of it. So I think I'm going to need to do a little research and see if that is a common notation or not. But we'll look at that again. But let's talk about example 6. It says, given that the measure of ray AB is an angle bisector. So AB, we're told, bisects this angle here. What is the value of x? Well, remember, if this is an angle bisector, that means that the measure of CAB, which is 33 degrees, and the measure of BAD, these two angles have to be congruent. So that must mean that 33 degrees is going to equal 4x plus 1. And we can drop the degree symbol. So we want to solve this for x. So I'm going to subtract 1. That gives me 32 equals 4x. Now if I divide both sides by 4, I get x equals 8. And so x equals 8 is the value that makes these two angle measures equal. And if you test it, if you test 4 times 8, 4 times 8 plus 1, you get 32 plus 1, which equals 33. So you can see where this angle and this angle are congruent. So an angle bisector, this is pretty important. An angle bisector is a ray that bisects an angle into two congruent angles, or two angles that have the same measure. Okay, so now let's talk about some special relationships. Excuse me. When we talk about angles that are complementary, we are talking about a pair of angles whose sum is 90 degrees. Okay, so complementary angles are angles, a pair of angles whose sum is 90 degrees. So like, I like this one right here. So this example right here, this angle and this angle, these two angles are they are complementary because the two of them added together will give you that 90-degree angle. Okay, so complementary angles are angles, a pair of angles that add to be 90. Okay, then let's talk about supplementary. Supplementary angles are a pair of angles whose sum is 180. All right, so here we have two angle measures. We're told that this one is 120. We know that this angle is 60. When you add those together, they equal 180. Now, here's how I think through this one, because every once in a while, when I haven't talked about them before, I always kind of have to think which one's complementary, which one is supplementary. Well, this is how I remember it. C comes before S alphabetically. Complementary comes before supplementary. And 90 comes before 180. Now, you know, I don't know if that'll help you, but that's just some reason I always have to kind of think through it that way. Well, let's talk about a linear pair. A linear pair is an adjacent supplementary pair of angles who form a line, a straight angle. So a linear pair must form a straight angle and they must be adjacent. Now, when we talk about adjacent, we're talking about immediately next to each other. So here we have angle A and angle B. They share this common ray and their angles form a straight line, or a straight angle, which is 180 degrees. All right, so a pair of vertical angles are a pair of angles who are opposite each other in an intersection and are congruent. Vertical angles are congruent. Now, what that means, congruent, is that vertical angles have the same measure. So if you look at these two lines that intersect, we have two lines that intersect, and they intersect right here. Angle 1 and angle 3 are opposite each other. So those are vertical angles. You could almost look at it kind of like, you know, they're making a V. Well, okay. So, but the key here with vertical angles is that two lines have to intersect. Another pair of vertical angles would be angle 2 and angle 4. Angle 2 and angle 4 are vertical angles. Angle 1 and angle 3 are vertical angles. Again, it's because the two lines intersect and these angles are opposite each other. Okay, and opposite angles or vertical angles are congruent, which means they have the same measure. All right, now let's put some of this into practice. Let's do a few examples. So, let's get some practice. Example 7, it says, find the measure of angle EBC. All right, so this angle right here is what we're trying to find. Ooh, we got a lot of work to do. This is what we're trying to find. Well, it says in the directions to state or underline the appropriate angle relationship for each pair of angles and then solve. Okay, so here's the thing. You've got two intersecting lines, and this angle right here and this angle, these are a linear pair. Well, tell me about a linear pair. Well, a linear pair are two angles that share a common ray that form a straight angle. Now, how do I know that this is a straight angle? It's because these two lines are intersecting. So I can actually find the measure of angle B by taking 3x minus 3, adding this angle B, and setting it equal to 180. Now, hold on just a minute. I think I've missed a step here. And I'm hoping that you're just going, wait, Miss Gribble, hold on. You forgot something. If this is the way I look at this, I don't have enough information to be able to find angle B. So I've got to put an extra step in there. I know that angle ABE is vertical with angle DBC. And if these two angles right here are vertical angles, that means that they are congruent. So I can actually take my vertical angles, and because they are congruent, I can set 3x minus 3 equal to 6x minus 21. And now that will help me solve for angle or for x. So I'm going to subtract 3x, which gives me 3x. I'm going to add 21. That gives me 18 equals 3x. And then I'm going to rewrite that, 18 equals 3x. I will divide by 3, and I get x equals 6. Okay, now I think I have enough. I have what I need to be able to solve this for angle B. So I have 3. I'm going to substitute 6 for x. I will subtract 3. Here's my angle B. And that equals 180. This will be 18 minus 3 plus B equals 180. 18 minus 3 is 15. So 15 plus B equals 180. And I don't have to have my degree symbol right now. Subtract the 15. Angle B is 165. Now that is 165 degrees. So this angle EBC is 165 degrees. If I also was asked to find this measure here, I have everything I need. All I would have to do is take 3 and multiply it by my x value of 6 and subtract 3. This is 18 minus 3, which is 15. And if this angle is 15 degrees and this angle is 165, then this is a straight angle of 180. So this got a little messy in here, but we had to identify the fact that these two angles right here are vertical angles and therefore are congruent. And if I can solve this for x, then I can figure out what the measure of this angle or this angle is. They'll be the same. And once I know that, then my linear pair, this is a straight line, then whatever we find angle x to be, that is, whenever we find x to be, then I can figure out what B is. Okay, and here's something else very similar. Example 8, it says that the value of C, it says find the value of X. I don't know where I got C from, but find the value of X. Well, this is, there's two angles here that are a linear pair. And a linear pair equals, the sum of a linear pair equals 180. So I can add these two together and set them to 180. So I've got 7x plus 6 plus 5x minus 15 and set that equal to 180. Because again, a linear pair will add to be 180 degrees. So I'll clean my equation up. 7x plus 5x is 12x. 6 plus negative 15 is negative 9. When I add 9 to both sides, I have 12x equals, what is that, 1, no it's not, it is, 189. I don't know what I was thinking. Okay, so for some reason, I'm not thinking, this is not going to go in evenly, so this is bothering me for a minute. I've got 7x plus 6 equals, oh, here's my mistake. This should be 18. I have 6 minus 18, which actually will turn this into a negative 12. And now when I add 12 to both sides, I just love my erasable pens. This is going to be 192. Now that looks better because when I divide by 12, I'm going to get, let's see, 16. Yeah. So x equals 16. Now, if you're uncomfortable with that and not sure, if I take my 16 and substitute it for this x and for this x, I should get two angles that have the same measure. So I'll even try it. 7 times 16 plus 6. Let's see what 7 times 16 is. 6 times 7 is 42. 1, 7, that's 11, so 112. 112 plus 6, that gives us 118. And then 5 times 16 minus 18, this is 80 minus 18. 80 minus 18 is, I believe, 62. And so 118 and 62 degrees does equal 180 degrees. So you have a way that you can actually check yourself. Okay, I'm going to skip example 9 and example 10 for right now. And I want to drop down to example 11. In this drawing, in this diagram or this figure, there is some information that is provided in the drawing that is extremely important. And that is this little box. This little box right here is indicating that this is a 90-degree angle. That little box right there indicates that this angle is 90 degrees. So if this angle is 90 degrees and this angle is a straight angle, then the three angles here should add to give us 180. So let's figure out what x is. So I have 4x. I will add 8x minus 30. I will then add 90. And all of that should equal 180. So let's add and collect like terms. I have 12x plus 60 equals 180. I will subtract 60 from both sides. So 12x equals 120. And now I'm going to divide both sides by 12, and I get x equals 10. And so x equals 10. And if I want to check what is the measure of this angle would be 40 degrees. And this would be 80 minus 30, which is 60. That's not right. Hold on. 8 times 10, 80. Oh, 80 minus 30 is not 60. That would help if I could, subtract or add or whatever. That should be 50, and 40 plus 50 is 90, and this angle of 90 and this angle of 90 would be 180. Okay? So lots of algebra involved in geometry. And so some of the things that you've got to work on and remember is, or get familiar with, are these definitions of complementary angles, supplementary angles, linear pair, vertical angles. What does congruent mean? What is an angle bisector? And so all of those things in this lesson are going to be things that you kind of need to work on and remember and know what they mean. So that concludes this lesson, or this part of the lesson.